Throughout the course of this video, you will be watching me cover the wings to a 1941 Luscombe Master, aka the 8A Silvaire Master. The Master was developed to provide an illusion that Luscombe was producing military contracted training aircraft, and so should continue receiving shipments of aircraft aluminum. The strategy worked, and the Luscombe company continued to receive aluminum until the unfortunate outbreak of World War II. Here you can see that I already primed the bracing wires, and I put my leather patches, tied them with some rib lacing cords so they wouldn't rub together. Next, I put on some anti-chafe tape on each rib and any nuts or bolts that might be popping up that would rub against the fabric. Here's what it looks like when I've got all of the tapes down. Again, I put them anywhere that they might chafe, on the leading edge, nuts or bolts, all the ribs. And then I went ahead and I got a little throwaway brush in an applesauce cup, put some poly brush in there, and I just dabbed it on the chafe tapes. I didn't do this last time, and I really regretted it because every time I flipped over the wing, my tapes would fall off. This time, I had no tapes fall off. So it worked really well, and I would definitely recommend doing this. Next, I covered the butt rib. I do this so when I cover both sides of the wing, the end fabric pieces have something to attach to. It also makes the butt rib stronger, get some layers on there. I do the same thing to the aileron bay. Here I took some poly tack and another throwaway brush and probably a peanut butter jar and tacked the fabric down to the rib. Next I used the iron and I just tightened up the fabric to get more of that shape and make sure that the fabric wasn't loose anywhere, and made some minor adjustments. Next I worked on the aileron bay. I basically did the same things that I did on the butt rib. Using the force, I magically flipped over the wing. Here's just some video of the aileron bay and the butt rib when I was finished. Next, I draped the covering over and tacked it down, and you can kind of see I made some light pencil marks on the trailing edge about 2 inches off, so I was going to glue on that seam. I went ahead and I glued the perimeter of the wing, making sure not to glue the leading edge quite yet. Next, I measured where the aileron cord was going to come out of this wing. I forgot to do this last time, so I actually covered the aileron cord into the wing, so I had to use a wire to fish it out. So let's just say I learned my lesson and I remembered to cut the hole before I covered the leading edge. And in this frame you can see Jimmy Joe, or Jim as he would probably prefer to be called, helping me. Then I went ahead and started to tack down the leading edge. I did this in 2 passes. I did one up top and then I did one kind of in the middle. It's hard to cover that much surface area in polytack because polytack dries really quickly and then you get like these glue globs and it can become messy really quickly, so it's better just to do it in 2 goes instead of 1. It comes out better. I still had to iron quite a bit, but I think it came out better, and if it didn't, then I like to continue to lie to myself and say that this was a better way of doing it. Now I do my first heat tightening at 250. This is just to get some of the sags and the wrinkles out of it. Later on, I will do my final shrinking at 350. Next, I flip the wing, and this is what it looks like. All the fabric hanging over. I took a piece of cardboard and stuck it under because the aluminum sometimes absorbs all the heat from the iron. I'm ironing the fabric so it's not as wrinkly when I poly-tack it down, because when it was flipped over it kind of gets wrinkly. I would also like to mention that this video is shot in chronological order. I know I was just wearing a t-shirt and a pair of shorts, and now I'm wearing a jacket, but that's just Wisconsin. Ironing down the seam on the butt rib. The seam from the fabric on top covers about halfway down the butt rib, so I was just ironing that down, making sure there were no bubbles, but at the same time it's just a butt rib, so who's really gonna see it? You know, who's really gonna see it? The mechanic? Yeah, well, they don't even teach fabric in A&P schools anymore, so can they really judge you? New day! I'm no longer wearing a jacket, I'm wearing a sweatshirt. Maybe soon we'll get back to a t-shirt and a pair of shorts, but I doubt it. Here you can see I'm just tacking down the trailing edge, doing the same things that I've done everywhere else, just in a different place. Now I'm ironing down some of those small wrinkles and glue globs so I don't have to fight them later when I put on the next piece of fabric. Now I'm taking some poly brush and poly brushing the bare fabric that hasn't been glued down, covering the metal, before gluing more fabric over it for better adhesion and to avoid pinholes later. And this is what it should look like. Next, I put on the other side of the fabric, and I repeated all the steps that I already showed you, and this is what it looked like. Next, I did the final heat tightening at 350 degrees. And we're done. I'm just kidding. We still got like 10 minutes left of the video. Here, I'm putting on the first coat of polybrush. I'm brushing it into the fabric to make sure that it fully gets into the weave. You can also see that I'm wearing a respirator while doing this. Also, I put on a painting shirt because I kept leaning into the wing on top of the wet poly brush, so it was getting all over me. This is what it should look like. You don't want to brush on too heavy because then you could get drips through the fabric and whatnot. So, light coats here, but just making sure that it does fully get through. After I was finished with my brush coat, I went ahead and I put on some reinforcement tapes. I used a light underneath the wing so it was much easier to see where the rib actually is placed. And this is what it looks like when it's finished. You can see that I put some poly brush on the reinforcement tapes just to really make sure they're stuck down. And now I'm using a rib stitching needle to pre-punch holes on my already marked rib stitches. Off camera, I went ahead and I laid out all of my stitches on the top and bottom wing. And now, just to make that process a bit easier when I actually start rib stitching with thread and needle, it'll be a lot easier to puncture the wing or go through the hole. You know what I mean. If you've ever rib stitched, you know what I mean. Here's some video of what it looks like when I'm finished. Nothing too fancy, just some holes in a wing. And now the long process of rib stitching. On the last wing, it took me about 12 hours, I think, to rib stitch the whole thing. And on this wing, it took me 10. So at least I cut 2 hours out. That's pretty good. My efficiency increased. So yeah, have fun watching me struggle while I try to relearn how to rib stitch. And we're done! Now I'm showing you that I put tape over all of the exposed attachment points. I also cut out the fabric for the pulley. And now I'm spraying over everywhere where there's going to be tapes, so the tapes can lay down better on the ribs and the trailing edge and the leading edge and all of that good stuff. On the first wing, I didn't know how to use the spray gun yet, so I probably saved 3 hours worth of work. Off camera, I laid tapes down already, and now this is me flipping over the other side and laying the tapes down on the other side. So that's why there's tapes wrapped up and they're already adhered, because I did that off camera. I don't know. I was probably listening to some music and I didn't want to give up my phone to record. So that's why we're here. But yeah, just taking like a 2-inch brush and just really making sure those tapes are flooded, getting all the air bubbles out that you possibly can, and then smoothing down those pinked edges so you don't have as much to sand later. And here's what it looked like when I was finished. Laying tapes, for some reason, for me anyway, it just takes a long time because you spend a lot of time on each tape making sure that it's, laid down as well as possible. This is the leading edge tape. You can see there's a crease down the middle. I don't know if I would do this again or not, or if I would just mark it with pencil. I'm not sure, because I did have to iron out that crease, but it ironed out pretty well. But it was just a really simple way to know, like, my guideline of where the tape would hit the apex of the leading edge. Here are all of my perimeter tapes. In my opinion, they are definitely the most difficult to lay down. You can also see that I made patches for any connections of the struts or the aileron cable, just because those are places on the airplane that are going to have more wear and tear. Then I went ahead and I cut out my inspection ring patches, as well as my grommet patches. When applying my inspection ring patches, I glued down my center ring first, and then I polybrushed the center. Let that dry, and then I polybrushed the fringes of the patch. Now I'm spraying my first coat of polybrush. Yay! We are in the home stretch, people. That arm may be tired, but keep on spraying. You can see throughout the video me resting my arm because it hurts so bad. I wasn't conditioned. Previously, I had showed myself cleaning the gun, but I didn't really explain what I was doing. Basically, I'm just taking all of the remaining product out, pouring it back through the strainer and into my measuring cup, and then I put some MEK in there, sloshed around a little bit, struggled to get the hose connected to the gun like I always do, and then I spray that outside to make sure that everything gets cleaned, and then I come back and of course take the MEK out and wipe it down really good, leaving it open to air dry. And now I'm sanding a silver wing. How the heck did that happen, you may ask yourself? Well, it happened because I forgot to film myself spraying silver. I meant to, and I had actually started, but then I got preoccupied because there was some adhesive on the wing from when it was flipped on the other side, and then I never actually filmed myself spraying silver. Anyway, lucky you. You get to watch me sand this wing for even longer now. How fun is that? Look at me in this video. I know I was having fun. My hands, they definitely didn't hurt. And I definitely wasn't on my 4th audiobook. Nope, just living the dream. If that face does not scream happiness to you, I don't know what does. I'm going to take this time to point out for all of those who missed it, but in the last clip where I was spraying polybrush, I was actually wearing sandals. Yeah, you're gonna have to check it out. Definitely not sandals with paper towel duct tape to them. And these are some close-up shots of what it looked like after I was done sanding. You can see when the camera's focused that I tried to get the edges a little pink. Here's a video of the skin on the floor. I originally had that nailed to the wall, but we took it down because I had finished the wing. I'd finished both of the wings. Look at that. Look at that. Look how beautiful that looks. Look at that finished product. So my agreement with the customer was that I was not going to paint the wing. So this is just taken up to silver. So I sprayed like 6 coats of silver. I sanded quite a bit in between coats, just trying to make sure that it looked as nice as possible. He didn't want felt on the leading edge, so there's no felt. And yeah, this is what they looked like when they were done. If you told me 2 years ago that I'd be covering 1941 Luscombe wings, I'd be like, you're crazy. Get out of here. But seriously, I couldn't have done this by myself. I have to thank Jim Weeden for letting me ask all of my silly questions and spending hours with me sometimes, going over techniques or how to do things, or I couldn't have done it. And these wings would have not looked nearly as nice without him. I would also like to thank Elroy Hilbert. He was my flight instructor who let me cover his wings and trade for lessons. So I don't think I would be a certified pilot without that trade-off, and I definitely wouldn't know as much as I know about fabric because of Jim and because of Elroy giving me this opportunity to cover his wings. They tried to kill me.
Back up. Over this way.
Oh my god! You're gonna break it before you even get it back.
He's like...
Thank you so much for watching and going on this journey with me. Like I said, this is my first set of wings, so I know I have a long way to go and a lot of room to improve. But if you enjoyed the video, let me know, and if this helped you with anything that you were working on, let me know. I'd love to hear it.